It's Joy with Enjoyed Healthy, and I have 3 recipes for you today. I am doing an ancient grain homemade cracker that just goes with anything or nothing at all. They're so delicious. And I'm using my ancient grain flour, of course, and it comes together really easy. And I'm also doing something that goes great with the crackers, and that's 2 kinds of soup. I love soup, especially when the weather starts getting cool and, it's a healthy, easy weeknight meal that you can whip together. Okay, so I've got a spicy tomato soup. It's creamy with some basil, and then I have a wild mushroom soup with tarragon. You can purchase my ancient grain flour mixes on my website, enjoyedhealthy.com, and starting this month for the entire year of 2021, I am going to be giving back. I want to highlight and support the Exodus Road and the fight for child human trafficking, and you can find more information on my website. I'll put the links to that organization. I will give 10% of all of my internet sales to the Exodus Road. I just started out by putting 3 cups of my ancient grain flour in the bowl of my stand mixer. So it's actually really simple, very few ingredients. Okay, so I have 2 teaspoons of salt, 2 teaspoons of coconut sugar. I've got a 1/4 cup of olive oil. I'm gonna use my, dough hook attachment and get those all mixed up. Once those are mixed up, I'm just gonna add a cup of water. Super easy. Okay, we're gonna just mix that till it forms a nice sort of sticky-ish dough. So I have my sticky-ish dough here, and I've divided it into 2, and I'm just going to lay it out on a lightly dusted sheet of parchment paper with our ancient grain flour. And I know that it fits in my cookie sheet, and I'm just going to roughly make that a rectangle. I'm going to take my rolling pin and roll that out to a thin rectangular shape-ish, as much as you can. It's hard to take a ball of dough and make it into a rectangle, but we're gonna do our best to do that. And the key to a crispy cracker is getting it really thin. So we're gonna try to get this to about 1/8 of an inch on here. So it can go as much to the corners as you can. Done that. Now we're going to just brush a little bit of olive oil on the top and put our topping on there. So I'm just using a flaked sea salt. You can use everything bagel topping. Good, help to be open here. This olive oil is a Tuscan herb flavored olive oil, but you can, just use plain, and you could put herbs on here. You could just do whatever, sesame seeds, poppy seeds, whatever you like. Just a light, thin coating. And then got your pretty flaked sea salt. Put it into whatever rustic, if you want to do squares or rectangles, you're just gonna cut it into the shape that you like. To do this before you cut it, but you want to poke with a fork to eliminate the air pockets as it's baking. And just slide that right on there if I can. Or if it gets messed up, you can just turn them around. I have my oven preheated to 450 degrees, so it's a hot oven, and these are going to bake. This oven takes about 14 minutes, so between 12 and 15 minutes, I would say, until they're golden brown and you can see they're nice and crispy. You can do both at the same time on 2 different racks. I like to do them one at a time just so that it is a really nice even bake for each. It doesn't take that long anyway. Okay, let's start on our first soup. I'm making a spicy tomato soup with a little bit, finishing with a little bit of basil, and it's really delicious. So, one of my best friends is a Vitamix, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off with a mirepoix, which is a common soup base of onions, celery, and carrots. And I just took 2 carrots and 2 celery sticks and clean them, roughly chop them, and I'm going to put them in my Vitamix. I'm taking half of an onion. I'm just going to take the peel off and in a chunk throw that in there. Okay. Just a rough chunk there. I'm going to cover that in water. I'm going to cover that with water, and doesn't matter really how much, just so that it's covered on the top. And then all you do is pulse it a few times and they're magically chopped. Okay, so crank it to high. That's it. So all I do is drain them in a colander and they're ready to saute. So we sauteed those vegetables in the olive oil. We added the garlic just at the last minute so it doesn't burn, got that nice and fragrant, and then I transferred it to my Vitamix bowl here. Okay, so we've got our base. Now we need a couple things. We need tomatoes because it's a tomato soup, and I'm using canned tomatoes. You can use fresh tomatoes if they're really ripe. I like using the can usually because I have it in my pantry, and also I know that they are picked at when they're the best. So this is your Glen organic diced tomatoes, and it's the 28-ounce can, and I'm just gonna dump that whole thing in there. Try not to get splashed. And I'm also adding something else. I think this really gives it such a nice flavor too. These are roasted peppers in a jar. This is 16-ounce jar. I'm just gonna use about half the jar. I just want the flavor, and they're just already roasted for. I mean, you could certainly roast your own. That's about half the jar. And what's going to make this spicy is my crushed Calabrian chili peppers. I love using this. You can use this, you don't have to use it only in Italian dishes. This has a great spice, it has quite a kick. So I'm gonna put in about a teaspoon or 2. I kinda like it spicy. My kids don't like it too spicy, so I have to be careful for them. Okay, so I'm throwing that in there, and then I am adding some organic vegetable broth. If you make your own, I usually make my own, but these are so convenient. They're ready to go. They don't require refrigeration, so I buy them, like a whole case of them at Costco, and have them on hand. So you want to make sure to give this enough room. I'm adding about half of that. We can add more in a little bit, but I don't want to overcrowd my bowl here. So, and then we're just going to start on low, crank it to about 7, and I'm gonna let this go for like 5 or 6 minutes. Let me just taste it for seasoning first. Now I salt and peppered the vegetables when I sauteed them, put that in there. It really doesn't need much. I'm actually not going to add any salt or pepper to it at that point. But I have a secret ingredient, which normally, if you've seen some of my other videos, I make a lot of sauces and things like that with raw cashews. You soak them. You can soak them overnight or do a quick soak with boiling water for like an hour. Anyway, I just recently discovered a shortcut to that, and it's cashew milk powder. I'll put the link below. So I'm just going to take a 1/4 cup of that. This is a 2 tablespoon measuring spoon. And I'm going to add a little bit of water so it doesn't chunk up in there. I want to make it into a liquid. And this is going to make it super creamy. I'm going to add that. And then I'm going to add, this is just at the last minute, I'm going to add some basil, okay? Just pulse it just a little bit. Oh yeah. Okay, so you can serve this right out of here if you're ready to go. Otherwise, you can just pour it right back in your pot that you use to saute the vegetables and keep it on a simmer, and everyone can help themselves. But let me just show you how good that looks. Now, I will garnish this with a little piece of basil, just for pretty, and maybe a drizzle of olive oil. Ooh, that's so cute. Okay, serve that with your homemade crackers. Oh my gosh, it's amazing. All right, let's make another soup. Okay, I've got about 24 ounces of a variety of mushrooms. We're gonna do a wild mushroom and tarragon soup. Oh, it's like my favorite thing ever. Okay, so we have white button mushrooms. We have the baby Bella mushrooms. We have some crazy looking oyster mushrooms, and I'm just gonna roughly chop these up, and shiitakes. Shiitakes have such a nice flavor, and mushrooms are so good for you. Okay, so I'm just gonna give these a rough chop and get ready to saute them. In my bowl that I just used for my tomato soup, I just had the sauteed vegetables in there. I'm just gonna saute my other half of the onion that I used from my tomato soup. I'm going to saute that in there and add the mushrooms, saute those nicely. Just a little olive oil, salt and pepper, make sure you always salt and pepper. And then I'm going to add a little bit of garlic at the end. We're going to use the same method. After we saute our vegetables, we're going to put it in the Vitamix. Okay, so we got those onions sauteed with all the, it's amazing how much the mushrooms shrink down. They start out this big, huge pile, and now they're this much, okay? So I put the garlic in there at the last minute, right before I deglaze the pan with Marsala Wine. You can use a bourbon, you could use white wine, you could use port, whatever. I like Marsala. I think it goes well with mushrooms. Okay, so we've got that in there. The herb that I like to use, and I think it's just such a good pairing with mushrooms, is tarragon. Now, if I had fresh tarragon, I would have been a little happier, but I didn't have any on hand and I couldn't readily find it. So I always have backup tarragon here, and I'm gonna use like a generous amount there. But it's probably like a tablespoon. If you're not a tarragon fan, use your favorites, but you could use thyme, rosemary, so many different herbs go well with mushrooms. Okay, so I'm going to cover this again with my vegetable broth. I'm just gonna use the other half of the container I used for my tomato. And I'm not gonna salt this much. I did remember to season my vegetables. So, and this is low sodium, but it does have some saltiness to it. So I'm just gonna, again, let this run for 5 minutes minimum, 5 to 6 minutes, and then I'm gonna do that same trick with the cashew powder. Okay, that went for 5 minutes, and I'm just gonna taste for seasoning. Oh, so yummy. It's already thick and creamy, but I am gonna add that cashew. Oh, milk powder, liquid. Okay, so this time I used a whisk, wised up. Not that it really matters, it's all gonna get incorporated there. So again, I used a 1/4 cup of the cashew milk powder. You can also, of course, use soaked cashews, no problem. But I forgot to mention, I like to reserve some of the sautéed mushrooms on the side for garnish. So you don't have to do that, but it makes it look kind of pretty. So I'm just going to, oh, the tarragon really is so nice there with the mushrooms. Okay, I'm just gonna blend this up a little bit. And again, you can serve it right out of here or put it back in the pot if you want to keep it on a simmer. But look at how pretty that color is. Okay, I love anything with mushrooms, but this is even extra special. Okay. I'm gonna use a spoon, since it's for me, that I already used for tasting. Just putting a little bit of mushroom on the top for garnish. And adding some of my pretty crackers, homemade crackers. Okay, who wouldn't love that creamy soup? That's what I wanna know. Okay. I hope you'll try these recipes. The crackers and the 2 soups is perfect for a winter weeknight or whenever. And if you like this video, subscribe, give me a thumbs up, hit the bell, and you will get notifications. If you select all, you'll get notifications whenever I post new videos. Thanks for watching.